And now, Out on That Line proudly presents the best and worst of 2022! Here's your hosts, Jeff and Alex!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third annual Out on That Line Best and Worst Awards. I'm Jeff with my co-host, Alex. As always, Alex, how are you this evening?
Oh, it's a beautiful night, Jeff, and all the stars are here. I see you over there, DJ Khaled. Go easy on those shrimp puffs, killer. What won't this guy eat, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, I know. It's his wife's. I see Megan the Stallion is in the crowd.
That's right. There's only one Megan Thee Stallion.
Megan, call me. All the stars are here for the most magical night in Out on That Line history. We're here to bring 2022 to a close in great style and fashion. We're also doing our first video podcast. Can you believe it? It only took us 2 fucking years.
Only 2 years and a very small subscription fee, it turns out.
It turns out just the tiniest modicum of effort, and you too can have a video podcast.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. Just be really bored and go 2 years and you'll finally do one.
Yeah, just
you will, I promise.
Faith and ingenuity, and you can achieve anything. Be not afraid.
Well, we are here again, once again, Alex. It is the third year in a row. That's something to say. Our third annual Best and Worst Awards. So we've picked our format. I feel like last year worked out very well as far as how we formatted it. So we're going to do that again. We've got an order specified here. So was there anything you wanted to start with before we dive right into this?
I don't think so. The big exciting news, I think, is this video content. But what's so funny about video content is you need a place to host it and a place where people can watch it. And a little birdie told me that there's a YouTube channel over yonder where you can find reaction videos. You can find the podcast. You can find fun one-off stuff that we do. And it's all there on youtube.com/C/Out on That Line, where you can now find the video pod. What more could you need for a night's entertainment? Again, that is youtube.com/C/Out on That Line.
That was well done, as always, and on video this time. So we're going to have to pull that clip and put it in a lot of places, I think.
We're really digging deep into finding a flair and theatricality for ourselves with this video. This podcast is about to go to the next level.
Yeah, who knew? Who knew? We should have done this a long time ago.
We literally should have.
We literally should have. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to start right out with our breakout artist and con artists of the year. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to start with breakout artists? Do you want to kick us off with the artist that you thought kicked the door in?
Sure, I think so. Yeah. Me specifically, or we're just asking when we go through these if we're doing the worst or the best first?
You take it off.
Take it off.
Yeah.
Well, my breakout artist for the year is Wet Leg.
Really?
I decided to pick the young ladies from Wet Leg. I think we talked about it, and it's an album that wasn't necessarily trying to reinvent the wheel, but it did catch us by surprise because it was so competent and so interesting, and it felt very fresh. So when you sit down and really break it apart, again, they're not really doing anything maybe you haven't seen before, but they found a way to make that feel really fresh, and they've got a very interesting point of view that I'm interested in. They're very funny. So I think they just kind of came crashing through the bramble onto the scene this year. So my breakout artist is the ladies from Wet Leg.
Well, my friend, I also chose Wet Leg as my breakout artist of the year. I thought that album was fantastic. And I kind of, spent the last couple weeks scrolling through all of our episodes, kind of seeing what I might pick, or if there was stuff outside of it. And I think nothing really kind of got me excited by an artist that I hadn't heard of before more than this Wet Leg album. And I feel like there was a lot of albums that got me excited this year, but I think everyone that got me excited was a band that I'd listened to previously to this year. So it couldn't really be technically a breakout artist for me, I guess. So Wet Leg was the clear, far and away favorite in that category for me. That was such an easy decision.
Yeah, there were a lot of albums this year that gave me a wet leg, but but this album in particular, really, it was a revelation in a very cool way. It did it leapt out at me. So looks like we have a unanimous pick right out of the gate.
That's wow. Same brain, buddy. Same brain. That's how we do it. So next part of this little category is kind of the opposite. The con artist of the year. What do you got?
My con artist for 2022 is a little bit of a cheat, but I picked Ticketmaster.
Oh, I thought of that. I thought of it today.
I had a couple things in this category, and then I thought about it. I'm like, where else would you fit an evil monopoly but Con Master? Because they've conned so many out of their money, out of their enjoyment. People take time off work, they get hotels, they get a babysitter because they just want to go see goddamn Luke Combs or something. And then Ticketmaster is like, well, how would you feel about paying $500 a head because you can't go anywhere else and we're so completely dysfunctional that ticket prices skyrocket when bots and scalpers buy these up and drive the price up. So we're not going to do anything about that, but you'll come back because we're the only game in town. We'll see you Thursday for the Taylor Swift presale.
Yeah, because what are you going to do is honestly the question. What can you do? There's nothing. If you want tickets to go see the artists, and it's like, why should you have to protest and boycott this company and not go see your favorite artists? You know what I mean? Like, you tell me when Coheed's coming through town that I got to go, like, it's either don't go see them or go through Ticketmaster. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go through Ticketmaster. It's just is what it is. But to me, I'm just like, why do we have to continue dealing with this? And I don't know if Congress is actually going to do something about it. I think they fully should. But what can you do at this point? Obviously, people are willing to pay those prices. That's going to be their argument, that if we are a capitalistic society, that should be allowed, and it's BS.
Well, you do have two things going on. One of them is I spoke to the show's legal consultant, an actual like big deal lawyer in New York City, said that apparently, yes, the government is considering going after Ticketmaster for antitrust. How high is it on their list of priorities? Probably not that high in the grand scheme of things. But apparently individuals have started to sue Ticketmaster because you had stuff like people who want to get specific to the Taylor Swift presale. They want to get in there early and get their tickets because they need special accommodation. They're differently abled. They need a specific kind of seat. So they need to get in there early and get that. And fucking scalpers and bots bought it all up. And now those people can't afford to sit in the only section they can sit in. So I'm sure it's not only them, but there are people who are fed up and they're going to sue.
Yeah.
So we'll see what comes of that. Some sort of class action lawsuit. I don't know if that's how that works, but I'd love to see it. I'd love to join it.
It makes sense to me, and I'm no lawyer, but it makes sense to me. I think a class action lawsuit is exactly what's going to happen, and it's become just like speculation. People are treating it like it's the stock market. It's like the crypto. Same people that like try to exploit crypto are the same ones that are going to do it with tickets. Like, it's just that culture. They do it with baseball cards. They do it with shoes. Like, whatever they can do to make a little money without actually having to do any work, that's what they do. It's just, it's sad. I hope somebody does something about it. That's a great pick for Con Artist of the Year because I think it's very accurate.
So what was your pick for Con Artist of the Year?
So my Con Artist of the Year was Kanye, because I've never seen anybody, and I kind of took some liberty with this. Like, I don't think he really tricked anybody. I think it just shocking moment after shocking moment, showing his like downfall into whatever you call this, I guess, straight up like Nazism. People are saying sources have said that have worked for him for like 20 years, said even as far back as that, he was talking about admiring like, the guys that were the evil empire in World War II. I don't know if saying certain words or certain names is gonna flag us for anything, so I'll avoid that, but you can figure out who I'm talking about. But just to me, like, how you possibly can do what he did early in his career. That music was incredible. Like, it really, really was good. It was like nothing we'd heard before. It ushered in an entire new generation of rappers that and hip hop artists and R&B artists that like took over the world basically. I mean, he just like changed music with what he did. And to be where we are now, I'm just like, what can we possibly like? You can't trust anything. You can't trust to believe in anything if this is where we end up with someone that was that good.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I
Mhm.
can't think of a bigger villain than old AH himself, number 88. Again, I think the jig's already up and we already said Nazi.
Mhm.
But yeah, so good for you, Kanye. You found a new depth to sink to, and there's nothing debatable about this either,
Mm-mm.
because you'll see a lot of arguments where like the Morgan Wallen thing, I personally don't think is debatable, but people will actually try to fight you on that. They'll say, well, it was in his own backyard and he was recorded without his consent. If anything,
Mhm.
Morgan Wallen is a victim here. He's got
God.
black friends who said he can say it, and like all this stupid horseshit from Morgan Wallen fans who are like, his music is the soundtrack to getting fingered under the bleachers at homecoming after the big game. I'm not giving that up for black people and their comfort. I must have my Morgan Wallen. And it's like, they'll actually try to have that argument with you.
Mhm.
There's no arguing with the Kanye West thing. He's an avowed card carrying anti Semite and worse. But I mean, he really came out of the
Mhm.
gate strong with the
Yes.
anti-Semitism. So you talk about like a hot debut album, he's dropping some hot debut hatred. And yeah, so good pick for con artist. I also almost did Kanye for this
Yeah.
category.
Yeah, that was I think those were I mean, you couldn't get more obvious with those two, but it does lead me into my surprise award, Alex. I did not expect this early in the evening to be able to give this one out, but I cooked up a little something special here. I'm going to call it the Taylor Swift Award for Failing Upward. And and this year, the inaugural award, the Swifty, goes to Morgan Wallen.
Oh my God. First of all, before you explain anything, I just want to commend you on A+ name for the award. A+ name for the award. We're on record as feeling a little different about Taylor Swift, but I can't knock that. The Swifty. And the
Yes.
Swifty goes to, oh, it just rolls off your tongue.
It was fun. When I thought of that, I was like, it would be nice one to not give her own award. That would feel pretty good. And then also having a chance to cuz I didn't know where else I was going to be able to do it here, to be able to rip Morgan Wallen a little bit.
Yeah, oh yeah, any chance you get. And it happens seamlessly, and
Mhm.
you know, twin flames, buddy. Teed you up with that whole rant.
You did. You did. You brought him in. The stars aligned. I don't know if you've seen that movie classic Serendipity. It's
Mm,
is it Kate Beckinsale?
it sure is.
Yeah. And who is it? John Cusack?
I think Cusack, and I don't know, I may be mistaken, but doesn't Salma Hayek make a spicy cameo
Yes.
in
Because I
Serendipity?
remember liking that movie. I couldn't tell you anything about the plot, but I remember there was a couple of reasons why I liked that movie quite a bit.
Oh, sure. I can think of a couple off the top of my head, but that is neither here nor there.
No, sir. No, no, no. So we'll move on to the next set here. So we're gonna start with the album that aged like wine for you this year.
Okay. My pick for that is Dawn FM by The Weeknd.
Mm-hmm.
That was an album I really liked when it came out. I was pretty bullish on it. And every time I've gone back to it, it's just gotten better and better and in different ways. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the storyline and the concept more in one listen. I appreciate just the music itself. Like, you talk about a song and a banger. He's got songs and bangers on
Mm-hmm.
this album, and sometimes largely indistinguishable from one another. It's just it gets better and better and better every single time you listen to it. It rewards the repeat listen. The Jim Carrey stuff, like, gets less
Seriously.
and less
Yeah.
pretentious the more you listen to it, and you like really hear what he's saying, and you're like, yeah, fuck, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like one of the most entertaining things I listen to all year, and it continues to deliver every time I go back to it.
And that I remember I paused on that one when I was scrolling through and I was like, which one really, did I like to start with? And then it got better for me. And that was one that I was like, I really did like it a lot to start with. Did it improve itself for me? And I didn't feel like it made as much of a jump for me as Asphalt Meadows by Death Cab. Because
Interesting.
yes, and for me, like, because I am getting so excited to see them in a couple months here in Austin. I'm even looking up tickets for their tour they're doing because they're doing Transatlanticism and the Postal Service Give Up for a tour. Like they're gonna do both of those albums back to back because it's the 20-year anniversary of both of them.
Oh
So
man.
I'm like in on Death Cab right now. Back in the swing, baby. And this one, I remember liking the album the first time I listened to it, and then every time I've listened to it, I'm like, yeah, this is exactly why I love Death Cab. Like they're back. They went on their weird little journey for a couple of albums where they didn't really, kind of know where their roots were coming from anymore. But this one is just like back to exactly why I love them, and honestly it's creeping up there to get like with Plans and Transatlanticism, like it's getting into the tier of those albums that I'm just going to listen to any one of them at any time.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I haven't listened to it since we did it, so I'm gonna have to go back.
Mhm.
That giving me a lot to chew on here.
Yeah, it was. I loved it when it came out. There was a lot of really just classic Death Cab moments that I just felt so nostalgic, and it was new and fresh at the same time. It was just, yeah, just so good.
So I guess I'm gonna bounce it to you now. I'm gonna shake things up a little bit. What was your album that aged like bread?
So I had my initial pick that I immediately thought of was Earthling by Eddie Vedder. But then I realized I didn't like that one to start. So it's like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like bread is good to start with. And then you just kind of like get stale and then moldy. And then obviously you don't eat it. The album I ended up picking was Harry's House by Harry Styles.
Jeff, you picked Harry's House for this one?
I did. I did.
Well, so did I.
Oh!
I was about to be like, what do you got to me? I was gonna be like, controversial pick incoming, but apparently not.
No, and to be honest with you, I don't know if it's necessarily the album itself or his kind of behavior
Mm.
throughout this year. I don't know. But I just kind of am a little sour on Harry at the moment.
It's a little bit of both for me. It's anytime I get too into a celebrity's personal
Mhm.
drama, and not I go seeking it out, it finds you.
Yes.
I'm just like, I'm done with Jason Sudeikis. I'm done with Olivia Wilde. I'm done with Harry
Mhm.
Styles. I don't want to watch fucking Ted Lasso anymore. And it put me off Harry Styles a little bit,
Mhm.
like coupled with the music, because it's a fun pop album that is not as good as I think you and I both
Mhm.
thought it was at the time when he still had a lot of cachet with us. Because I look at it and the journey I've been on with Harry Styles was completely wrote One Direction off their entire
Mhm.
existence. Didn't pay Harry Styles any mind when he went solo. A friend of the show, Tyler's little sister, was very into him, and then Tanner was like,
Mhm.
"Actually, he's pretty good." And I was like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
okay, whatever, Tanner." Uh-huh. It's pretty good. Yeah, yeah. Open the three fish eggs. Um, so I eventually was like, well, if Tyler and Tanner are being generous to it, like I'll give it an open mind. Listen to some stuff. I'm like, you know what? I think I see it. But I've kind of looped back around to like not thinking it's bad, but I just don't care.
Mhm.
I don't care. I don't care to listen to
Exactly.
Harry's House ever again.
Yeah. I mean, I remember us being both, and I mean, I think there was a couple of little dud spots on the album, but there's a lot of albums that happens with. But I think we both had a few songs that we were like really excited about. We thought were really, really good on that album. And I listened to it a few more times since then. Because it'll still come up in shuffles and everything like that. Because I did listen to it several times when it came out. And it just doesn't get me like excited anymore. Now, you throw in anything from Future Nostalgia, Dua still gets it going. Charlie XCX still gets it going. I think Harry's House just like didn't have the staying power that the other ones did.
It petered out. It was the toy you were really excited about when it showed up, and then after a while, you're like, oh, it doesn't do anything different than the
Mhm.
Kung Fu grip. So I think I'm done. I think, yeah, I kind of outgrew Harry's house by
Yeah.
the end of this year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he does next. If he tries to go back to the super pop stylings that he found probably the most success with, or if he, decides to go a completely different direction. Maybe he becomes a rapper. I don't know.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Well, we have an empty spot on the roster since Kanye went full
Yeah.
Sturmbannführer on us.
That's a gaping hole that he left. That's what a wild fall from grace.
Yeah, the Joseph Goebbels of the rap game.
Yeah, there should be a Kanye award.
Ooh, that's good.
The Yeezy. The Yeezy goes
The
to.
Yeezy. Oh, perfect. We have to
Yeah.
find a way to make it distinct from the Swifty. The Swifty's failing up. Maybe the Yeezy is the greatest downfall, like the most cataclysmic downfall.
Yes, and he clearly is the recipient of the first award, I
He
think.
wins his own reward.
Yeah.
That's okay. We'll remember that at the end of 2023. The
Yeah.
Yeezy and the Swifty.
Yeah, or we call it like the Westies.
The Westies is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we might run into some copyright stuff with the Yeezy,
Could be. Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
I heard what you guys said.
Yeah, he's gonna talk about us next time he's on Alex Jones.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. We won't get into that.
No.
So yeah, I guess I'm gonna kick it to you again.
Okay.
We've got biggest surprise, biggest disappointment. What was your biggest surprise this year?
My biggest surprise, I think, was the unraveling of Pup the Band by Pup.
Show your work.
So I heard DVP by them was the first song that I listened to. It was just like a straight, like pretty heavy pop punk song. Like it's really, really good. It was inventive. Like they had a cool, like kind of chorus line that it was just like a harmony, basically, no words. It was just like kind of cool, and you hadn't really heard anything like that. And then so I figured they were just like a pop punk band. And then we got the unraveling of Pup the Band. And it was like the most unhinged pop punk I think I've ever heard in my life. It was like a pop punk concept album. I mean, it was so many things that I love in one package and would not have expected from that band, of which I only had like a brief familiarity, but I thought I kind of had them pegged.
Well, I have a tie in this slot
Mm-hmm.
for biggest surprise, and one of the recipients is the unraveling of Pup the Band.
Oh, yes.
By Pup. For all the same reasons you mentioned, because it really was, at first glance, a pop punk album skewing more heavily punk. And then you get into it and it's so much more than that. Kind of the same thing that attracted me to Wet Leg,
Mhm.
where there was like a very tongue-in-cheek sense of humor, and there was more interesting subject matter, like that song Matilda.
Mhm.
Writing a song about the first guitar you ever got, and it just breaks down and sounds like shit. So you write from the perspective of that guitar as it's being retired. You gave her one last solo on the song, and it sounded like shit. I mean, the solo was good. The quality was to do. But they were doing stuff all over this album. It was weirdly mixed. It was sloppy. It was loose.
Mhm.
But it just like it moved on instinct and heart rather than like, let's create a product. I just wound up super duper taken with Pup and the unraveling of
Mhm.
Pup the Band. And the other thing I had for the tie was Blue Rev by Always, because I'm an Always fan. And I
Yes.
was excited to hear a new album. I didn't think I would fall head over heels in love with it the way
Mhm.
that I did.
Well, I think that one's getting a lot of play right now. I think there's a lot of places that one's landing pretty high on some end of year lists.
It is absurdly good.
Mhm.
It's one of those things, and so is Pup, where you can play it for notoriously picky malcontent friend of the show,
Mhm.
Rory, and he can't help but compliment it. I remember
Yeah.
playing Totally Fine by Pup, and he's like, "This is pretty good." I was like, that's like a Grammy award for them.
Yeah, right? I don't think
And
I've ever had that happen.
I've never had him say that to
Yeah.
me. That was pretty good, man. Um, and then Always I snuck some in there, and he was like, "This is pretty good." I'm like, yeah, can you imagine him? God help you if he sees the lead singer. He'll
Yeah.
fall hopelessly in love and we'll never get him back.
Yeah.
That's his type of girl, and she'll hurt him bad.
She won't even know it because he'll never say anything to her. Oh, that was
Oh,
oh. Well, What about your biggest disappointment of this year, Alex?
My biggest disappointment was We Are by John Baptiste.
Show your work.
Okay.
You're talking about the Grammy Award winning We Are by John Baptiste?
The Grammy Award winning
Okay.
coming out party for big band auteur John Baptiste. I almost gave that album Age Like Bread, but I didn't listen to it again. But over time, with the perspective that distance grants you, I really, really fucking did not like that
Mhm.
album. And the disappointment aspect comes in. It had so much steam. Everybody, it would be like there's this Brendan Fraser movie coming out called The Whale, where
Yeah.
he's playing a 600-pound shut-in. And there's so much hype behind his performance, the comeback performance. It's heartrending.
Mhm.
And I have no doubt it's going to be good. But imagine a world where it's built up like that and you see it and it just sucks. And it's like the tone's all wrong. And it's like
Mhm.
unintentionally funny and terrible. Again, I have confidence it won't be that, but just imagine how disappointed you would be going into that. That's what it was with John Baptiste. I was like, oh, hell yeah, this is going to be
Mhm.
something new and different, and I can't wait. And then I listened to it and I was like, oh my God, this kind of sucks. And haven't gone back to it
Mhm.
since. So that was, I feel a little swindled by John Baptiste.
I mean, I remember just being totally just whelmed by that album. Like,
Mhm.
not underwhelmed, not overwhelmed. I'm just like, well, that exists. That's an album of music that he did. And I don't know. I feel like there's probably so many examples you can go back to and see a Grammy winning album that you're like, why did that win? You know, just like the right people heard it, thought they were smarter than everybody else, and we're like, no, this is not the one that everybody bought and listened to. That's not the album of the year. This one that nobody heard of till we announced it, that's the album of the year. That's the one. Maybe they probably sold it at Target. I bet this was big with the middle-aged class.
I very well could have
Yeah.
been like well, I mean, it's as far as I can tell, boomers on the voting body. So this seems like a pretty down the middle thing to pick in a year that, quite frankly, you and I liked a lot of stuff. Billie
Mhm.
Eilish's, um, Olivia Rodrigo.
Oh,
We
yes.
found a lot to like Silk, Sonic, and they
Mhm.
got their due. But this was just bizarre and out of left
Yeah.
field. And I think the Academy Awards, especially with Best Supporting Actor and Actress, they really like to play kingmaker and
Mhm.
crown a rising star. Did it with Jennifer Lawrence, did it with the Danish Girl, that kind of Alicia
Mhm.
Vikander. They do stuff like that, but I don't think you can really do that with an album. Like
Mhm.
there's certain marketing that goes into an artist and releasing an album, but an awards body giving something no one's ever heard of, that distinction, I don't think it was a
Yeah.
king-making, star-making endeavor. I think it was some weird agenda-driven thing that didn't land.
Yeah. I feel like they were trying to make it a very Oscars type of selection process for it, because that shit happens in the Oscars all the time. A movie that nobody saw because it was in like 3 theaters got a 57-minute standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival, and that movie's going to win the Oscar. You know what I mean? Like that, you see that shit all the time. It happens all the King's Speech. Bleh.
Yeah,
Like, come on. I will hang my hat on that take till the day I die. That movie sucked.
it was boring.
Sucked. Boring. Like what was I supposed to learn there? Come on. Like, it was boring. And I understand they want to do that because they want to keep it the art form. That's how they've always done it. But this is a group that's given best metal album to Jethro Tull. So, you feel like the credibility was never really there to start with. So the fact that we're getting this worked up about it, I think, is a problem and is exactly what they want, to gain some steam again. But like, why you would not pick like Sour? I mean, easy pick for album of the year. I mean, it just like was a smashing sensation. Driver's License took over the planet, like was an easy pick. You want to crown somebody like her. She's how many more records do you think she's sold than John Baptiste right now?
That's an excellent question. I would have to assume a buttload.
Millions, probably millions. Like streams, she's got what, a couple billion at this point, like an insane amount compared to, I don't even need to look it up, but it just, I don't know. They just thought they were smarter than everybody else. It was a bad pick.
I guess so. And like, did they think like has any of the John Batiste stuff been played on the radio? Not that that's always the bellwether, but I heard Driver's License today and stopped and sang red light, stop signs while I'm driving. I mean, that one sticks to your ribs. And you know, if you want to argue like, well, we wouldn't give it to Sour because, well, now then you get into a weird like genre-ist kind of a genre snob thing where it's like, well, that's bubblegum pop done by a 17-year-old. We'd never give that best album, but we're going to give this thing that had a lot of production in it, done by a guy that like only diehard Colbert people would know that that's the band leader and the music producer. Like diehards will know who that is, but it's largely unknown to the demographic that watches this. Like stodgy old people watch the Academy Awards and pretentious douchebags watch the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Young people, younger than us, watch the Grammys and kind of do in some cases take taste picks from it. So like being a highly successful music podcast, just started doing video. We had no choice but to check out what the Grammys were putting down. And then when you see something you've never heard of wins best album, it really teases your senses. And then you go in there and you go, what the fuck?
I really, I don't know. It was a bad pick. It was a dud of a pick. Hopefully they do better. They haven't announced any nominees yet, right?
I don't think
the
so.
Grammys is coming. That's not for a couple months, is it?
Yeah, I think we'll end up doing it in like March.
Yeah. So we'll come back for that because we always do a Grammys episode. So come back for that. Hopefully we'll have some good albums, some good things to pick from here. But my biggest disappointment this year was The Car by the Arctic Monkeys, because I got my hopes up so high for this album when I heard it was coming out, and it was such a steep fall off of that cliff when I actually listened to it. It was so bad.
Let me ask you this. Did you think or hope that it was going to be return to form after Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, or were you fairly certain it would build off of that? What was your take going into it?
So I kind of knew that it was going to build off of Tranquility Base, but I guess what I was hoping is that they'd maybe just bring in a little bit of what they used to be, because a mix of those two would be awesome. I don't need them full like balls out heavy like they do sometimes. Like I don't need that all the time, but if they could get to a middle ground, I think I'd enjoy it a lot more, because The Car was just everything I didn't like about Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino was amplified on The Car. I mean, it just seems like they whatever buttons could be pressed of like Jeff doesn't like this, Jeff doesn't like this, Jeff doesn't like this. He just like doop, 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 down the line, pressed them all.
And as we talked about on the episode, if you did not like Tranquility Base, they really pushed it further in that direction. But honestly, like they pushed the sound like back into itself, like pushing your little innie belly button in, because it didn't take it in a different direction. It like just went right down the center of what they did on Tranquility Base, which I enjoyed. I liked that album. I liked The Car less, and I haven't gone back to it since we've done the episode. So that's faint and damning praise right there. Didn't hate it or dislike it as much as you, but I see your disappointment.
Yeah,
because it didn't move confidently in one direction or the other.
Yeah, it just seemed like if you're going to take that big a step to do Tranquility Base and then just do a little sidestep for The Car, it's like you're not really, I feel like, progressing in the way that you should.
Yeah, that's fair.
To keep people interested.